All right, we're back live. We we honestly might want to consider like a little like intro here to kick the podcast off. It's always like interesting trying to figure out like what do you say to start the episode there.
Welcome to the podcast. No, man, this is getting a little bit easier. What is this, number five? Right?
This
Number
is
now?
numero five here.
Yeah, it's becoming a lot more natural, which is nice. And scheduling, actually, I haven't told you this yet. Next one, if we're going to do it next week, Ricardo's going to step in. So we'll have to, pass the reins over there. I'll be out.
All right, cool.
And yeah.
All right, cool. We'll intro Ricardo there. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
I don't know. We never even talked about this. I don't know if you do you ever listen back to the full episodes? And if so, have you noticed things about what you say consistently in your delivery?
I have. It's awkward listening to yourself. I've learned that over the years. I don't know. I think it's something about hearing your own voice never sounds like the voice that's coming out. So there's like that
Yeah.
disconnection that happens. I'm like, man, why do I sound so like nasally and nerdy? I'm like, I don't get it. But I have seen some cadence changes of like the the kind of pauses, like I just did there. There's quite a bit of that, but it's conversations how I talk typically. So yeah, so it's a bit odd. Have you been listening back to them?
100%. Yeah. It's super weird, and I feel like I'm trying to be more conscious of not saying like and it's very
Mm-hmm.
difficult in practice there to do, but yeah, it's been interesting. I'm trying to be a little bit more
So
conscious of that.
I don't. So here's the thing. I don't think that other people notice it because I've watched it back. I'm like, man, Trevor is so smooth. He's not
Oh,
doing that.
nice.
But you probably are, but I don't recognize it as much. But as yourself, you're more critical on it than anybody else would be. I think it's a perception thing internally, some sort of weird
Oh, that's so interesting.
psychographic type of item because I thought the opposite. I was like, oh no, Trevor's super smooth. He's clear on his concise, etc. So I don't think we have to worry about it as long as we're talking natural.
Nice.
The other thing that I would say too is it's okay to have pauses, right? I think a lot of times people think that they need to fill the dead air and it gets kind of awkward, which sure it gets awkward, but sometimes people might just be thinking or we're not sure where it goes. But a lot of my favorite podcasts, there are just pauses because in natural conversations, there will be pause. Maybe you're collecting your thoughts to present yourself. So yeah, it's kind of been a cool trip, man, to kind of understand this podcast world. It's
It
not as
really
difficult.
has.
Just doing it makes it way easier.
100%. No, I completely agree. It's so funny to talk about that. And I think as we're saying, I feel like we're continue to improve on like the conversational aspect of it and just keep doing what we're doing.
No, 100%. 100%, man. Even if nobody listens to the long form, we got some short form content that we get through. And honestly, it's cool just to collaborate, like I've said before, on what the hell's going
Yeah.
on in the market every week.
Yeah, 100%. All right, cool. Let's dive in. We got some topics on the agenda here. One thing that I wanted to note off the start here is Google's auto apply tab. I wish I had like a good screen share to show to kind of demonstrate this, but this one's a little straightforward. So if you're managing a Google Ads account, and this also applies to Microsoft Ads, but if you're managing your Google Ads account, there's a recommendations tab in there. Sometimes they'll give you some good recommendations for some like new keywords to add in or like an optimization to run. Sometimes it's a lot of junk in there, but there's a section in on the recommendations tab that is titled auto apply. And when you set you could set which things Google can auto apply in your account. Like for example, one's remove redundant keywords. Like they could automatically do that, or add headlines to responsive search ads. They could automatically do that. So there's certain things that you could preset and let Google automatically do and run in the background. Some of which are really helpful that I set every single time. One thing that I've noticed is more recently on a couple account audits and then kind of transitioning on to new accounts is keeping an eye on the auto apply tab. I don't know if they update certain things, but it's very easy to forget about that. And then Google's going to default to some things you're probably not going to want to have happen. First is they will automatically enable search partners on your search campaigns, and they will automatically enable the display network on your search campaigns. So if
No
you are
shit.
running search campaigns and they just automatically like you start seeing that they change like the little logo of search between search and search partners and display, your search campaigns could automatically just like start serving on the display network and search partners network, and you have no idea why. I just wanted to start out by flagging that of like, do your due diligence and check that auto apply tab, because that could really, really bite you in the butt later down the line of like, why am I spending on display network or search partners network?
What is how is that set up by default, right? So you're creating a new account. What yeah, is it automatically like apply all? Is that
I
on by
think,
default? Do we know what that is?
I don't know. I'm pretty positive it's everything auto defaults to being on. So all of those settings are automatically going to be defaulted to on.
Huh. Yeah, you know it's interesting too because it reminds me that's part of it. The optimization score that they give you because that drives a lot of those auto apply recommendations are towards the optimization score. Correct.
Exactly. Yep.
So I remember that we've had representatives from Google. Well, maybe they were from Google or not, or subcontracted out, and they say, "Hey, you need to increase your optimization score, right?" But by improving the optimization score, you're going to basically tank the campaigns, or cause an increase in cost per click or cost per acquisition. They don't get the context behind it all. So I think there's probably a lot of small business owners that launch a campaign. They're like, "Oh, I need to have a 100% optimization score." Who doesn't want a 100% optimization score, right?
Yeah.
But they ultimately don't understand why the campaigns go to shit because of it. So that's one problem, right? Where these representatives are calling small businesses or emailing them, say, "Hey, I can improve your optimization score," but realizing it's going to actually hurt campaign performance. But then previous experience as an agency partner with Google, you get a partner portal, and one of the things they want you to do is to improve your optimization score, and then you
You got
get
to
like
maintain
points
that
to them.
level.
You got to maintain that shit, which is
Yep.
crazy. Because like the partner portal is kind of interesting because you'll get points that they can buy basically Google crap from them. Like you get points. Most of it's driven by spend, which makes sense. But the other part is like an optimization score. So it's like, if I need to keep improving my optimization score, which incentivizes me to buy crap from Google, which it's like I want to have the best agency score possible. It could be a detriment to the clients. So maybe one of those things, once again, with Google, good intentions, but bad execution. I think we got a theme
Yes.
there.
You got it. That's a really good call out there, is being weary of the recommendations tab, just to not blindly like apply everything, because there's going to be a ton of nonsense in there with like just changing all your keywords over to broad, or enabling search partners, or like changing your bidding method when it's not needed. I would take those recommendations with a grain of salt there, unless it's like something super obvious for like keywords or copy or something like that. Would definitely be very weary of that. And like I said, definitely check your auto apply sections and make sure that you're not, getting into display network, or even like some smart bidding stuff in there that is really sketchy. Like you could immediately change your bidding methods to like set a target cap on your smart bidding. And it's, not really sure how that happens, but that could really impact your performance. So be wary of both the optimization score recommendations and sift through the auto apply section. You're going to save yourself a bunch of money and a bunch of headaches there from random optimizations that you had no idea were happening in your account.
Good old Google, don't be evil, right? There's a reason they got rid of that motto.
So that's a good transition into the next point here of the allegations of Google. I don't know what they've done here of like inflated
Yeah.
CPC and auctions.
Yeah, so they're at an antitrust trial right now, at the federal level, and so information's coming out of some of their practices, and one of the things that has come to light is that um, let's see, the vice president of Google's advertising product testified that Google adjusts its advertising auctions to meet revenue goals. So they're saying that they
He
jacked up the
testified
prices.
saying that.
Yeah, it's testified. Yeah, it's under legal
Dude, that's crazy.
documentation. So these adjustments included price increases up to 5%, are carried out without informing advertisers so they can hit revenue targets. So
Just a
hey,
5% increase. It's
just
no
crank it
biggie.
up 5%. It's cool. I mean, most people aren't going to notice. Kind of reminds me of what's that movie? The guy in the stapler in the basement. Office. What's the movie? Oh my god.
Office Space.
Where, yes, Office Space. Yeah, where they're
Office
taking the
Space.
small
Yeah.
percentage of the
Yeah.
nickels and
Yes.
dimes out of the transactions for it all.
That's classic.
And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, they cranked it up too much, and it's like, oh, there's $1 million in our bank account. We screwed that up.
I
But
forgot
it's the
about
same
that
concept,
one.
right? 5%. 5%. Most people are not going to pay attention to that 5%, but why? They want to increase their revenue targets to make more money, so the shareholders' responsibility, or the responsibility of shareholders, like, is it? That's crazy. Is it the responsible thing to do for your shareholders to crank up the 5% of your ad costs to hit more revenue goals? I guess, right?
That's like their defense is basically
shit.
saying,
I don't know. I'm just
we
saying
have
that's
to-
what I'm trying to. That's what I'm
Yeah.
like logically trying to think, like, why would you do that? I get it. You need to hit revenue targets. You do have a financial responsibility or fiduciary responsibility for your stockholders, etc. But I don't know. It's shady. It's 5%. I mean, everybody could use 5% for whatever. It's just
that's
it's too bad.
crazy.
Yeah.
It's
so,
been.
I mean, if Google's
I feel
done
like
it,
this is.
I'm sure other people have done it.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like this has been like a, I don't know, like a myth or like a theory in the industry for a while. Like, does Google do this with their cost per click bidding method to make some additional revenue? And it would make sense. That's wild that he put that in testimony there of actually like admitting to that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's documented. We'll see if there's any fallout from it. Probably not. Just knowing how.
Yeah, I was gonna say
the
there's no
government
way. Probably
works.
nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I would also say to that is I feel like some of the more like sophisticated search people, like if you're really in the weeds of like search campaign optimization and like you're managing search campaigns, I've seen more and more people talk about testing manual bidding and just using manual bidding and setting your own cost per click bids and not seeing a decrease in performance. I have a couple accounts right now that I'm managing where we're doing some split testing with bidding methods between smart bidding and max or manual CPC bidding. So I'll have more to speak to that for like my own experience with it. But I will say that's an interesting concept because smart bidding, they give you reports in smart bidding. So for example, if you have a campaign with like max conversions, you can click into max conversions and it'll show you the top signals. Like, we bid up during Wednesdays at X time when it's a male in this age range in these audiences. Like, they'll give you a lot of details of like their top signals. So in essence, you could run a campaign with smart bidding, take a look at what their top signals are, and then update settings accordingly into your account, and then switch to manual bidding to keep bids at a similar level so that you don't have to worry about inflated cost per click bids. That's something that would be interesting to test moving forward, is getting that report data from smart bidding, implementing it within your account, and then just saying, hey, this is what the max that we're willing to spend on cost per click bids because we don't want to have any inflation or anything like that in our accounts.
That's really a smart idea. I will be curious to see what comes out of that. Aren't they getting rid
Something
of
to keep
manual
in mind
bidding?
there.
Aren't they trying to sunset manual bidding though at some point? Or
That's something else that I was kind of thinking of, is like that's probably going to be done. Like right now you could do manual bidding, but like it's not the full manual bidding. That's a good call out. It's enhanced CPC. So you're setting bids, but there still is a little dynamic feature to it. And I could see within a couple months or within a year, it's just straight smart bidding. I could totally see that happening down the line here for sure.
So that's interesting. It makes me think of a story or an experience story, whatever, where I've worked with other paid media experts where they're big on manual bidding. And here's one of the challenges though, is when you go into managing, and this is more of the agency world side of things from a perspective, is that, you're setting your manual bids, things are performing well. And then, someone, be it on our side or the client side or wherever, suggests, well, why aren't you using the algorithms to optimize the campaigns? Why aren't you using some of these other, cost per acquisitions, etc.? So it becomes a kind of an area of let's say not friction, but conversation with clients, where it's like, well, why aren't you using this? Well, manual biddings works well too. It's like you're not using the latest technology that Google's giving to you, because they always think, a lot of the times, in my experience, clients that are not in it day in, day out, which is totally fine, uh, that they trust Google. That they're giving them a tool to use, and we should be using it. But
Yep.
it could be cost you 5% or for performance issues. That's just kind of one anecdote that made me recall that with the manual bidding. That does sometimes cause conflict with explaining to the client, well, why are you doing something that seems kind of archaic? But I think you can explain
Yeah.
it backwards, like you talked about, where then it could work, because half our job
Totally.
is communicating these changes to clients.
That's a huge component. It's just trying to explain that. Oh my god, and that also just made me think of this whole like reporting identity stuff that we were talking about in GA4. That's been an
Yeah.
interesting one, explaining that to clients. But I think the moral of the story here is test smart bidding, and make sure you're taking a look at these auto apply sections, and don't start using the search partner network or display network when you do not want to.
Good call.
All right, so we also wanted to chat about the new version of Bard. I guess we're like calling this Bard 2 or Bard 2.0. I've seen referenced online, but essentially, like, Google released their new version of Bard, their updated version of Bard. There's a couple like interesting call outs in their release that I thought were worth noting. Um, but it sounds like, from the initial pulse check on Twitter, from my use of it, from what people are chatting about, and Steve, you said pretty similar. Seems like nobody's pleased with this update, and it not the greatest experience still.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I haven't used Bard extensively at all. I'm more of a Chat GPT person, but I think, what did they say in the release, that they'll be able to kind of connect into your Google Drive, your emails, etc.
I think that's the biggest. That's like one of the bigger updates here, is exactly that. You can connect to everything within your like Google platform in your Google suite. They have an interesting call out in here, for that, of like, imagine you're applying for a new job using Bard to help with the process. You could ask Bard to, quote, find my resume titled June 2023 from my drive and summarize it to a short paragraph, for a personal statement, um, and continue collaborating on that for a new cover letter. So you could kind of imagine, if there's certain documents within your Google Suite, like, good example for us being like reporting and analysis and stuff. Hey, we have this, whatever, this like campaign report from these previous campaigns in this Google sheet. Google, can you or Bard, can you find me trends from this, or can you find me insights from this? I could see that being very, very useful. It just seems at this point in time, it's not that effective with some of the responses that it spits out.
Gotcha. Okay, makes sense.
The other thing that I thought was somewhat interesting here too, that's an update from Bard, is like the ability to share conversations. So you can share a conversation you're having with Bard, like with Bard chat, and just like grabbing that public link. And then I could send that link to you, Steve, and then you could continue
Hmm.
the conversation in the same thread, like it's the same, and keep that going. I could see that also being a useful thing, where like maybe you have whatever thread going, pass that along to somebody else, or like help a teammate get started with a thread if they're not good with prompting just yet. I could see the sharing functionality being pretty useful.
Yeah, I know ChatGPT has that. They came out with that a couple months ago, the sharing. So I'm sure they're just using some of those features to pull over into ChatGPT, or what ChatGPT, and kind of replicate it. Um, what is weird with Bard, though, I guess I'm not super clear, because um, there is another tool. I forget what they call it. God, Google launched it for Google Suite Business purposely, and they were going to charge, was it $30 a month? Um, for you to be able to access their AI tools within your Google suite of tools, which would have
Oh,
like
I do kind of remember
transcription.
that. Yeah.
I did a post on it on LinkedIn. Let me see if I can track it down. But the name was different, but it's basically using the same Bard technology, but on this. So I'm like, what's the difference here? When it comes to Bard, I guess Bard's more public than, or I guess maybe more B2C, I guess in this sense, versus this other product that was B2B. Let me see if I can find
Was
it.
it the Palm model?
Mm,
I do remember what you're talking
let me
about too, though.
see. Oh, here we go. Here's my joke. Duet. Yeah, Google Duet. Launched September 1st. They're charging, yeah, it was like $36 per month. Let me just see what Google's Duet's features are real quick. Because it
Maybe
sounds very
that's more
similar
of
to
like an
Bard.
enterprise solution, you know?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah, for sure. It's a total enterprise solution for it all. So what's the difference between the two? Yeah, introducing Duet for Google. Um, yeah, it's available for workspaces. Um, I try. Yeah, you can do a trial, but then they want a credit card. I tried doing it for it, but yeah, it's the same thing where Duet is actually laid in to like your Gmail. It's like a separate kind of interface than Bard, so it sounds very similar. I definitely want to
Interesting.
try it
Okay.
and use it, but yeah, for $30 a month, I'm not sure that's something I want to do. uh, so yeah, Duet.
On on the topic of Bard, now that we're talking about it, first off, that's such a bad name. That just sounds terrible when you're talking about like an AI tool, in my opinion, like Bard. It's I don't know. That's like I
I've
feel like
played a
Google could have
lot
figured
of
something
role
else out.
playing. I've played a lot of role playing games in my life. A lot of multiplayer games. And the Bard was never the super strong character that people would be dying to use. So it's interesting on the naming side of stuff. It's definitely not cool. It's
But
tough.
the search like generative experience, like actually using you're going to Google search and instead of using the search functionality, well, I
Mm.
guess you're still using search functionality, but you're using kind of like Bard, that generative experience. I don't know your thoughts, Steve, but like from my experience, I've really disliked it in search engines. And I'm not even trying to say that as like, hey, I'm a PPC SEO agency guy, so like I'm trying to hate on this new technology that could impact paid or SEO. I don't know. I just haven't enjoyed it whatsoever. Like I haven't found it helpful and I've almost found it like it creates more friction. For example, a good example the other day is I went to search for like if you can um it was something in Performance Max, like how to negate ages in Performance Max campaigns, like something along those lines. And typically, like on Google, you'll search some type of question, like research based question, and then in that like little content snippet, they'll usually have like bullet points or step by step directions and a link to it. And if that doesn't answer it, you know, like the first three listings underneath usually are going to get you where you're looking to be. When I've done this in the search, like the generative experience, it just seems like it just makes it like look fancy, but it doesn't improve the quality of the results. And it's almost like you get some text and then some links and then some like other links below it and then like some images to the right. Maybe that's just me and some of the searches that I've conducted, but I haven't really found it helpful for like quick answer responses. And I don't necessarily know if that is going to provide a better experience than your standard paid rankings and SEO rankings on a search results page. Don't get me wrong, ChatGPT and Bard for more complex issues or putting together write ups or like those types of things, I think great, that makes sense and it's really useful. But I think for like some quick hitting research based questions, I don't know if the chat GPT type functionality or SGE is going to be the best case scenario moving forward.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting because I haven't played with the new search experience quite a bit, but I've seen plenty of screenshots, people reviewing it, etc. Um, but it's a different experience for how people get information. So I think that I don't know. I have to think of this of we're involved with this a lot. We know that there is a beta test for this, but I'm thinking of like my buddy that owns restaurants that, he uses Google. He sees the 10 blue links and the ads on top, right? That he knows that experience. So how they choose to roll this out, um, is it just one day they're going to just switch it all? And when you go into Google, that result page is going to be drastically different. I don't think that's going to be wise because, to your point, it changes that crazy experience. But so I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they would do that. But if they do, then dude, SEO paid world, we're all confused. Like, what's going to happen? I think they're
Yeah.
probably going to highlight it as a feature in the search results, like, hey, try this mode instead and see how people like it, like kind of like a soft launch, like an opt-in use for it, and then maybe people might use it more. But I don't know if you can change the user behavior that's been built since, was it 1999, even before that with Alta Vista. Like, hey, it's a directory of information. We had the yellow books, was a directory of information. Search engine was an online directory of information. And those people, like, data retrieval for users, or for humans, that's what that experience is, and that's what they've known. So to change it from a different type of like retrieval of information, I think that's going to be very difficult to do and to be people on board with it. I think if they switched it overnight, there'd be people picketing, with
100%.
torches and pitchforks out the gate saying, what the hell happened? Like, change it
Yeah.
back. So, and also, you got to think about it, going back to the very beginning of what we talked about today. Like, Google makes their money off of paid ads. Doing this could screw with their reputation. Like, I'm not going to go to Google anymore. And so I don't think it's going to change. I think they're going to have this as an SGE response. And I'll be bold, I don't think they're going to integrate it long term. I don't think that it's experience that's going to change. But I think, to your point, I think there's going to be a different kind of like tool or method people use to use ChatGPT or use Bard for different instances, right? Maybe they're doing some coding, or they're doing content creation or something like that, or I need help with the best man speech. That's going to be a different type of like functionality. I don't think it needs to be shoved into search. Um, yeah, there you go. There's a little rant for you. I just don't think it's
That's
going to
where
change.
but that's where I'm at with it is I think what you search on Bard or Chat GPT is totally different than what you're going to search on Google search results page. Like, they're two different
Yeah.
use cases. And
No,
I think
100%. Yeah, use case.
exactly. And I think the whole scare of like, hey, paid search is going to go away or organic is going to go away. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're here to stay because I think that method works really, really well. And Google is really good at finding your answer and providing a relevant link to that answer. And I think what you're going to use search is going to be completely different than what you're going to use like a chat functionality. Like, to your point about like a restaurant owner, say for example, like you're in a new town, top restaurants near me. Like, do you need a AI generated like I don't really think so. I think it works really well when you have a couple links listed up top of nearby restaurants with your reviews outlined there, and then a link to call right away or book right away. I don't know if you need some like hip AI generative experience to answer that question. So I think long term, does SGE stay? Maybe Google just gets really sophisticated and goes, oh, for this query, generative experience makes sense based off of past data. But for these queries, search results page is going to say as is because this actually works better than the generative experience.
Yeah, I completely agree. I also gets me thinking of do humans want to have a curated result? I mean, yes, Google ads are, or Google search results right now, they're curated, but most people don't know that. My point is, like, do they want to have that kind of fancy response telling a story and what that experience is now? It's like almost too much, and it doesn't
It's
give
like
you the
annoying.
ability to. Well, it doesn't give you the ability to choose, right? Like,
Yeah.
I want to do some research, I want to do some information because I'm kind of ultimately a bit skeptic of maybe what I see online, and I do want to go to the second or third page and look around and see if I can find the information that I'm looking for, and not just like have it curated, because those results will be biased based on the beholder of the information. And yeah, who knows what I mean, there's already been posts about some of that experience, like when it's like super biased, some weird stuff going on as far as,
Yeah.
they're having misses, when it goes through, but it's like you want to get some information about something, and you don't want to curate it potentially, but, yeah, I don't know if it's going to change or they're not going to rapidly deploy it. I don't think they would. It'll screw with their business model. It screws with the data retrieval that people are typically used to. And that's at the mass scale. You just can't switch that and think everybody's going to like it. Like, it's not going to work. Yeah.
Plus, too, it's like the age-old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Search works. Like, if you have a question and you could find it on Google, and it's usually in the top couple of results there. Like, I think maybe it could like the generative experience could enhance certain queries, but I don't think for the vast majority of those searches it makes a ton of sense. So I'm
it's a
really
behavioral
to see
switch of how to
retrieve
information. Like, it's a behavioral switch of how to change information. Like, the humans before search engines, they use yellow pages, to look and find businesses. And online search results are online listings, like I said before. So I just don't think it's a behavior that they're going to be able to change. And they might be just maybe brazen or bold enough to think that they can, but I don't think that's going to work. Humans are pretty dumb and simple. So, like you said,
we I think I mentioned this to you. We got Will Reynolds, the founder of Seer, coming on the podcast in a couple of weeks here. He's been posting on his LinkedIn a lot about monitoring the search generative experience on Google. So I think every day he'll put in the same couple different searches on Google, and is literally just manually taking screenshots every day of where the generative experience shows up. Because I've noticed this in mine sometimes it'll be up top and immediately answers your question. Sometimes there'll be organic listings, and then there'll be like a block in the middle of the page saying, do you want to use this experience? So I'd be curious, like, what his thoughts are on this topic, but it seems like Google is really trying to test that out of what queries does it make sense to use this experience in, and like, where do we want to have this on the page? How do we want to have this rolled out? Seems like they're doing like a ton of testing, which makes total sense.
but don't you have to opt in to get the test, to see the test results, right? You have to go to
Yeah,
it.
you had to opt
like,
in.
I go back to the thought of like, okay, well, who are those users that are opting in to test it out, right?
That's
They're
a great
probably
point,
digital
actually.
marketers, so they're not really getting the right, I guess, clinical trial of it all. It's going to be completely biased, where it's like, hey, it's a digital marketer, guys. Like, I want to know like what my daughter is, that experience, my mom or my dad, like the people that really use Google, what that is and how they release it out. So until they do that, I think all this is irrelevant, until they get a better results. Like, I don't know, if I was making a decision of like, I want to know what user behavior we should really integrate, there should be a button that comes in and says, hey, do you want to try this search experience? But someone's opted in already for it. So I don't know. Yeah, that's something we can bring up with Will. I'd be curious to get his perspective.
That's such a good call out on the bias piece, because it's so true. Like, it's all like techie analytics, like paid organic people just using that, not really your normal.
This week and go ask, I don't know, whoever you see that you're friends with, go ask your first, do you know about Google's new generative search experience? Look at you like you're fucking crazy.
I'm gonna have to do that.
Like, you're gonna talk about AI again, Steve? Yeah.
That's funny. All right, more to come on this one. One other topic that I
earmark
wanted
it and talk about with Will, I think. Yeah, but let's make sure we like earmark that so we can talk to Will about it. I think that'd be cool.
100%. Cool.
Okay.
All right. Something else that I wanted to talk about. Really cool update here. Microsoft Ads this week announced that they are, you're going to have the ability to launch connected TV ads and video ads through the platform. So they made this update this week here, which is really cool. It seems like everybody, or not everybody, but it seems like connected TV is one of those that is, a lot of clients are now asking about that. It kind of feels like programmatic, like a year or two ago, where everybody was asking about programmatic. Seems like connected TV is the next programmatic in that sense. But they released this update, and I had a couple stats in here that really stood out to me that I thought were really interesting. So Microsoft claims that by 2024, so next year, quickly approaching, majority of people will spend 3.5 hours consuming video content every day. So 3.5 hours of daily content consumed on on digital video, which makes like total sense. I don't know how they qualify digital video, if like like TikTok and short form is wrapped into that, or if that has to be longer form. But everybody is consuming video content, so like seeing 3.5 hours wasn't a huge surprise there. They also noted that 90% of Gen Zers right now watch two screens when they have TV on. So it's a guarantee that they have their phone out and they're streaming something, they have something on their phone, and they're watching TV at the same time. Also, 80% of people in general read the news on their phone while watching TV. I thought that was really interesting, and I could totally see that being a thing. Um, and the third thing that stood out was by so this year into 2025, they estimate that programmatic video ad spend, so just ad spend alone, is going to grow by $22 billion. So it seems like the trend is way more video consumption, which makes sense, and a whole host of ad spend going into programmatic video moving forward. But up until this time, for you to run connected TV or programmatic, you needed like some type of DSP to do it. Now, with this as a native integration to Microsoft Ads, this is going to be really interesting to see how this one plays out, because this opens up connected TV to a ton of advertisers and clients who might not have want to invest in another platform because they had like search campaigns going or paid social campaigns. Now it's like if you already have some search campaigns going on Bing and you want to like get some video ads in market, connected TV, this is an easy push or an easy recommendation to make there.
Yeah, it's interesting because previously, you need to have a DSP to go through. That's what most people that are selling programmatic, they have a seat at a DSP.
Exactly.
Um, and so this basically gives us a seat at the DSP without having to pay the DSP pricing for it all, which is interesting. That'll be really cool to test out and how powerful it is, because yes, you're right. Clients have been asking a lot more about this, but let's hopefully that it is truly connected TV, that it's going to be on TV devices, not mobile ads and like on devices, because I think that part is where a lot of the wasted impressions go to, is on, they're watching on their phone. Like if you want to be in a house, especially for like local businesses, you want to be on the TV itself, which they say, this should be it. That's there. And so if that opens it up, it could be pretty powerful. I'd be curious on conversion tracking. That's always my biggest gripe with programmatic, is that very rarely do I see it drive conversions, which get it. It's a top funnel tactic, but maybe we can get like view through conversions, that would be really, really powerful. Like if we can figure out, which it should be, right? Let's play the scenario. If this would be the ideal tracking, we're watching TV. Let's say it's on YouTube TV or Hulu or whatever. We get an ad. We saw that user had an impressions, but because they're in the same Wi-Fi on their same cell phone, they should be able to connect the devices together on Wi-Fi sharing, right? And then if that person then goes to the website itself and then purchases it, and then they say go to the website itself, maybe they went through a search ad or organic ad. I don't necessarily, not that I don't really care, but I want to make sure I get that view through conversion, that they saw an ad at some point in time on their TV that was on the same Wi-Fi as the cell phone, that then converts. That needs to be attributed to connected TV. If we don't have that attribution through, it's going to be hard to sell it to clients or sell it to myself, to be honest. Is this worth it? Because it's like, hey, you got so many impressions. I'm not the impression guy. I want like the view through conversion of what's happening. So let's see if that can happen. I don't know. I haven't looked into it enough, but I'm down to test, see if we can get that done.
I think that's why they don't I mean, they do state that there's going to be attribution tied to this, but I do think that's why they kind of teed up this write up with like 80% of consumers read the news online while watching TV, and 90% of Gen Z now second screen internet and TV in the US here. So it seems like they're kind of like trying to tee that up of like anybody watching streaming is also on their phone as well.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy. I think it's more than just Gen Z. I think anybody with a cell phone, uh, yeah, I think they're on it. Me personally, I can't, I'm like one track focus. My wife will tell you, like, dude, if I'm not looking at it in the eyeballs, I'm not listening. Same thing
Same.
with the TV. Like, I can't do both. But a lot of people that I know are like, yeah, dude, they're on their phone while they're watching TV, and it's like, are you watching the show? Oh yeah, I'm
Dude, you
watching the
got to be
show. I'm like,
dialed into the show. Yeah, I
are
hate
you?
that shit.
Are you interested? So yeah, that's definitely happening. So if you can connect the two, I think it'd be really interesting. Um, forward. So that's great though. It gives us the accessibility to do so. Let's just see what sort of conversion tracking we can get done. What sort of budgets are we going to need? If there's any sort of minimums, etc. But it's all going to have to be a test with clients to see if we can get this done. But it's nice because I think a lot of clients are being sold on programmatic vendors that they're just marking up and they're not providing any value. Yeah, there's some people out there that are doing that for
I
sure.
see that all the
Mostly talking
time.
about I'm mostly talking about like the Cox Medias of the world or the cable companies that are getting into advertising. It's like, you just lost revenue stream somewhere else. You're trying to get someone else. Like people don't buy TV ads like they used to. So how do we sell these people? They just said, oh, we need to get into the connected TV space, but they don't have their. I don't know. I just think a lot of people are getting sold on cable companies that they traditionally used to buy that now are trying to move over that just don't do a good job. Mark up the CPMs.
Just inflate the CPMs and just have a nice little margin there and have
Yeah, the
their cut.
impressions, you're getting them. Cool, great. I can't tell you if it brought business though. Yeah.
So more to come there. I'm definitely curious to see on that piece of like if you're, a DSP and that's like how you make money in programmatic, how this will impact your business. I would assume, Microsoft does this. I would assume Google's going to roll something else out to kind of mimic this. Seems like both these platforms usually always do this. So would not be surprised if Google rolls out some type of like connected TV functionality here in the future as well.
Yeah, and maybe we need to get someone that's really more of an expert on the programmatic side to come on and talk to us about this and set the record straight because I don't know,
I
I'm
would
very
love that.
biased about it, but I'm in. Let's do it.
All right, cool. All right, so what's
Cool. So I know,
this last topic here that you
yeah,
want to chat about?
it's more of a rant, so it's interesting. So I have been getting emails, not just me but other people. Maybe you've experienced this, like you get an email saying, "Hey, we'd love you to be on a podcast." Have you got one of those emails before? It's kind of like a cold email, or maybe it's a
Yeah.
LinkedIn. It's like, "Hey, I
Yep.
want to be on a podcast." So I was like, "Okay, I've got them." I looked at them, like some of them, like they kind of look spammy. There's one that reached out that looked pretty credible, as far as looking at the content, some of the media assets that they're creating. I dug into it a bit more and I kind of read the fine print, and you have to pay like $200 to be on the podcast.
Dude, what?
And so it's like, wait a second, you're an entrepreneur podcast, but you need to pay $200 to you to be on your podcast. It's a revenue stream, right? So
That's
obviously, if someone gets
crazy.
invited to be on a podcast, what sirens go off? Like, ooh, someone wants to talk about me. They find me important. My ego is now inflated. It's like, oh, let's go after people's egos to be on a podcast, right? Like, hey, you're important. Let's put you on a podcast. We'll talk about you, et cetera, et cetera. But hey, we're going to charge you $200. And I was like breaking it down. The guy does like two or three. He probably does like five a week, maybe more. So if he's generating, that's probably $200 off of there. And then he's got the stream of revenue coming off the podcast itself from advertising. But like, it's like feeding content to his podcast, but then people are paying him to do it. Like, it's crazy to me.
That's
I mean,
so
I get that
awkward.
happens on like big podcasts. I've seen people take money for that as a PR effort type of placement, influencer type of thing, be on the podcast is there. But like for like these smaller podcasts, I'm like, dude, that seems a little bit predatory on that side. Like, why are you charging? Oh, you're charging for time to do it. Okay, kind of maybe get it. Time to do the assets or graphics, but it's like kind of takes away. I don't know. It's how to monetize a podcast. I just have never seen that. And I just felt after seeing that there's going to be a fee for it and they couldn't tell me how many views it would get, etc. it just didn't seem like something I'd be moving forward to. This is the first time I saw it. I was like, oh, cool, $200 on how to do a podcast or to be on a podcast. So we could say it here. We're never going to charge to be on the podcast. Like, it's crazy to me. Like,
that's insane.
I don't know.
I could see if you're like,
yeah.
I don't know. I could see like if you're an entrepreneur, you know, you have a newer brand, you have a newer company, and like you have the opportunity to like go on Rogan, but like, hey, you have to like pay $1,000 or something. I don't think Rogan would ever do that, but I could see instances like that where like, okay, this is a massive platform here, and if I would pay to get on, this could like have a huge difference in the longevity of my business. But like, I don't know, even then, that just seems like a little schemy, like it's a little gross, especially if it's a smaller podcast that doesn't get like much reach or anything. It's like that not a good play. And I also like don't really feel bad for the people that like fall for that and pay $200 to get no views on the video. Like, you should have done some due diligence and like a little research there on like previous episodes and all that stuff. Like, it just doesn't seem. I would have no interest in like asking somebody to come on the podcast and then like, oh, by the way, hit our Venmo with $200 here before you get on the episode.
Yeah, no, I mean, it happens with a lot of things else. And now that I think about it, like being invited to be on like on a, oh God, there was something like, oh, you can publish to a magazine that we want you to be in. But then it's like, oh, there's a charge of like $200 to be included. I'm like, wait, what? So there's trying to, yeah, it seems so not genuine in my opinion. I get it. People are trying to make money, but there's ways to do it where you don't have to be so disingenuous about it. So
how long were those episodes, by the way? Did you check out the episodes?
Yeah, it was like 30 minutes.
Oh, wow. I would have guessed like 10 to 15. I thought he would have been like this, just cranking episodes out and putting minimal production into it. But 30 minutes is solid.
Yeah, I mean, the production value was decent, you know, for it all. But I was just like, man, I guess anytime I get a request now, it's like, I don't want to dig into it because like, oh, all right, that's how you're making your revenue stream is off of that, which, okay. I don't know. I could see it debated both ways, but it just kind of turned me off to do it. So
yeah, totally.
Is what it is.
We will. If you have any interest in joining our podcast and want to chat about anything, we would definitely not charge you to hop on the podcast. That's for sure here.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, I think that's a good way to end it. Good stuff. Episode 5, all in the books. Yeah.
We will have more of a follow-up with this SGE stuff moving forward, generative experience, and then I think this will be one of those topics that keep intertwining in future episodes and how all this stuff evolves. But yeah, good episode. Thanks for tuning in. If you're listening right now, keep it moving.
All right.
Later.